What's going on, everyone? This is Nick Kerskevich, host of The Tread, owner of Cyber Serpents and Cyber Tees. We are going into week 3, and we have Chris from EpicStyle. Chris, come introduce yourself. He is, if you don't know Chris, he's one of the coolest people in the hobbies. He has a cooler personality than his shirt, so definitely you want to meet him.
Thanks for the intro, Nick. I guess where I start is it's just not me. Yes, I'm the only one on camera, but my wife and my 2 kids, we absolutely enjoy this hobby and working with our reptiles and meeting new people, going to shows, doing different events, and just spreading that enjoyment that we get from the reptiles that we own and see at shows. So that's pretty much it. It's probably more I could say, but we'll leave it there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just want to make sure we got 10 people live. We're still adding people as we go. Have any of the Kansas City Chiefs that I have reached out to join the show live? If anyone doesn't know, Chris is a diehard Chiefs fan, and we've had these ongoing jokes going. So for around 3 weeks now, I've been hitting up everyone from Andy Reid to Patrick Mahomes to challenging the kicker to come on, and that Chris would hook him up with a gecko if he showed Chris how to hit a 56-yard game field goal. So we're really hoping that someone joins. So if someone from the Kansas City Chiefs does join, please let us know in the comments section, man.
That's so funny.
But
that's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, obviously from my side, I think most people know me. I know absolutely nothing about geckos. Let's just put that clear there as we go into
So I could say whatever I want.
You can say whatever you want, and I will see it as fact. But for most of you that don't know, Chris, I think your big thing is obviously the Leachianus Geckos, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, that's our primary focus is our Leachianus gecko. Which is funny that it was a gecko I really didn't like at first when I first found out about it. When I got into the hobby, I was like, looks like a bump on a log, kind of boring. Like, cool. And I started on your side of the table, a ball python person.
I got you.
Where I originally cut my teeth in the hobby, and fast forward through over time and saw an adult, got to spend like a week with one. I was like, these things are fascinating. Like, I really want to check this out. And like a week later, got two babies. And since then we have roughly 50 or 60 Leachianus geckos.
How many different locales? So for people who don't know, locales is a big thing in leachies.
So it depends on who you talk to. Like, I think there are roughly 11, but depending on, there's like a Nuana, there's a Duana type that is very rare. And then there's a Riviera Blue, which is fake and made up.
Okay.
So there's I'd say a solid like 11 different locales on there. If you hop on Morph Market, you can see the breakdown there, and actually a couple good YouTube videos that showcase and show the different locales that they have out there, from how their banding is on the sides and their pattern, to how reduced it is, to some have more of a pointed snoot.
Yeah.
Some are more rounded. But the age-old question on our side of the fence is, say you bought a Leachy from Joe Schmo off of Facebook group or at a show. You want to make sure that you get all the information that you can about the locale, the parents, all that stuff, because that is the only person that can truly tell you what your gecko is. You can't look at pictures and things like that. And that's a cinnamon, or that's a Mojave, or that's a spinner blast, or that's bamboo or whatever. So it's hard to tell those differences. So integrity and where you're buying it from and things like that, and taking the person up front for what they're worth is truly very meaningful.
Yeah, and I think that's what I find really interesting. I think the gecko side, I think at least over this past year, I've got to meet more gecko people like yourself. We were just talking, I think this is like roughly the 1-year anniversary that me and Chris have known each other. So, we've been bros for 1 year here now, and he apparently isn't tired of me yet. But, I find it really interesting, obviously on the ball python side, like obviously, we don't track any of that shit. We're just like, yo, this is what the morph is. And like, there's no like lineage mapping, none of that fun stuff. But like, people name their geckos, which to me, like this past NARBC, I was like, blown away. I'm like, why are people freaking like? Why does it say like freaking bubbles this and like all these different names and stuff?
Yeah, because it's like just like your cresteds, there's your lily whites, and then there's your xanthics. Is your recessive side of it. Your lily whites is a dom trait that's going to be 50% of the eggs should hatch out be lilies in that regards. But outside of that, like your crested geckos when they lay are going to throw a wide variety of colors that aren't guaranteed. So then going with Leachianus, it's based off locale. And then if you look in bearded dragons and stuff, like it's polygenic and stuff where you're looking to bring in the colors and certain looks and stuff. So then focusing on those sections. So there's your high colored stuff, which there's things out there. I don't know if you made it to the back corner at Tinley. I think it was Rack House.
Yeah.
They had something that looked absolutely sunburnt. Like it was insanely red how it was. I sent it to a friend. And he opened up the thumble, or before he opened it up, he said he thought it looked like a Chihuahua. That's how much patterning and how much color was on the gecko itself.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing kind of bring up too. I mean, obviously we got Leachianas, we got Helmaharas, and then we got Chihuahuas. I mean, but while they're all closely related, they're technically all different, correct?
Yeah, no. So like your Halamaharas are like your poor man's lychee. I don't know a whole bunch about them. I have handled a few very carefully because their skin is very fine, kind of like your day geckos, which you would know you're not a gecko person. But candling them isn't really much of a choice. Like you shouldn't do it. But just moving in from containers at shows and things like that, you have to be very careful because you can rip their skin.
Right.
But I have a friend, Kirk at Reptile. Oh my gosh, I feel bad. I can't remember his name. But he's been breeding Halimahera borax geckos for like 15 years, and they look really cool. They look way better than the stuff that you see on like the importer table.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to see what some of the.
No, you're good. Oh, hey, Tim's here. You and Tim would get along. You and Tim are both Bears fans, so.
But I think the other thing as well, obviously, and I don't know if maybe that's like a thing on the gecko side of the hobby that I don't know, because I mean I've met both, obviously you and then Gary, which we'll have on a later episode.
Yeah, no,
and both of you have you have a very robust, I would say, reptile education side. Which, when I think about it, I look back and, people go, how'd you get interested in reptiles? And I'm like, I don't know. I was about like 6 years old. They brought an alligator in and like in the school. No, seriously, they brought an alligator into school. If everyone remembers the original Bubba, from NARBC, like that got brought into school because I grew up like right over in Tinley Park originally.
Oh, that's cool.
So like the original Bubba was there when I was like 6. Fast forward to when I was like, I think it was like 8 or 9, got my first bearded dragon, and the rest is history. So I think it's an area I think that we don't highlight as much, I would say, in the hobby, but it's super important, because otherwise I feel like there's this gap. It's just like, I want a reptile, I buy it. And I feel like to a degree, it's kind of like fish. Like, why do people go to the store? They go buy a dozen fish. And then how many of those fish are left in a week? And it's like, oh, like 80% of them are dead.
Yeah. I'm not very good with fish. I try to, what was it like? My wife, before we were married, like the first year together, I think it was her birthday. I tried to do a fish tank, bought all that stuff, drove an hour to go to a special fish store. Cause back in the day, Walmart carried fish. I didn't want any of those fish where we lived at. So I went there and bought like these goldfish that had like big bug-eyed type things or whatever. Bought those, and a couple of them did all right. A couple didn't do all right. And I suck at fish. I have a nephew though. He's really good. He started with African cichlids, and then now he does a bunch of coral and saltwater stuff. Yeah. It's in fabulous. So eventually when I make it and I have room in like an office or hopefully a building one day or whatever, that I'm going to have him come up and set me up a whole tank. And how do you do this so it's easier for me to maintain?
All right. I still want an octopus, but I think Nick Kennedy, I think you're probably still on there. You're going to tell me the same thing that Justin always tells me, which is don't get an octopus. It's going to escape.
That would be a fun one to have too. That would be, but like you said, they're just escape artists.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my thing is, with the how did the reptile education side start? So was it that you started working kind of from the the vendor side and stuff, and you said, hey, let's build on this business into an education side, or was it the education side that then kicked off kind of the breeding and vendor and kind of the whole facade of everything we know
Let's
now?
see. I would say it kind of came together at the same time. So like to fast track the story of like our beginning.
Yep.
So our son Desmond, he's 12. For his 5th birthday, we ended up getting a bearded dragon.
Okay.
We really wanted to get a dog, but we both worked day jobs. Gone. I didn't want to kennel a puppy all day, so
Was that the dog? I heard like a grumble in the
no.
background.
Oh no. I'm in the basement and they're moving a chair. Hey, I know you're watching this. Stop moving a chair around. It's noisy down here. I'm just playing. So so we settled on taking him to the pet stores where we got our bearded dragon from before we became first reptile people. So we went to the pet store, we picked out a bearded dragon, and my wife, like 5 months later, she found the local cold-blooded expo shows.
Yeah.
So we started going to those and enjoying it. And our son actually won a corn snake the first time we went in a drawing. I got like addicted to like looking at snakes and finding out this. I fell in love with green tree pythons. Those are really fascinating and cool when I was learning about them. Then just started kind of collecting ball pythons here and there and ordered some stuff off Morph Market. But then I would say about 2019, after working some, after my collection started to grow, but I worked with the person who put on Cold Blooded Expos, Jason Cruz.
Yep.
And it was like an internship. Like I went to school for something completely different.
Right.
Never thought like reptiles would be what I'd be doing or whatever, but I learned a lot of business things, reptile stuff, communication, just how like the flow of the show works.
Yep.
And that really helped out. So then I was like looking at things. I'm like, hey, I could set up at a reptile show and see how it's like and do that. And as we started doing that, I wanted to then make my own company, my own business. And I started looking around and realizing our area didn't have too much of the education aspect for reptiles. Yeah. And we watched a lot of Bar Check when we got into the beginning, when we first got into reptiles.
Most people
and so that was a big thing that we watched when we first started it. And then let's see, I want to say he was maybe in preschool still. So backtracking a little bit, there was a guy that came out. I think his name was like Dan the Animal Man or something, which is very catchy, very clever. Yeah. But his preschool sent home pictures, and he had like a ball python on his neck. I'll have to go find him and I'll post him on Instagram. And then he had like a spider on his head and stuff. And they sent it to him. He really loved it. And that's how we kind of got the idea for like the bearded dragons or something like that, was kind of a different type of pet. Yeah. And so I'm just doing it. My personality, I love talking and sharing about those type of things. And if you go back and I think about like in high school, I possibly thought about being a teacher at one point. Yeah. And so this gives me my ability to be a teacher in my own way, through our animals and advocating for them and just sharing different things. Because some people, sometimes I go to places, this might be the only time they ever get this interaction with reptiles, period. So
no, right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really unique too. I mean, I think that was like the last St. Louis, man. You were hustling. It was like between like St. Louis plus like educational birthday party at the same time. I mean,
yeah, there was that. Yeah, St. Louis. Yeah, the last St. Louis show, which my wife, thank you very much for staying at the table and getting it done on Saturday. But yeah, so St. Louis was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We weren't too sure if we were going to do it at the time, and then a couple other people signed up, and then things kind of fell in place. Like, hey, we need to go to St. Louis. This is where we need to be at. Looking at the calendar, there was a party that booked it was like noon or something or whatever. So I had to drive 2 hours, 45 minutes back home, pack animals for a party, do a birthday party, go back home, unpack, put things away, and then drive back to St. Louis. I was literally there for a little bit at setup on Saturday just to get things open and going. And then I left, and then I didn't get back until it was probably close to like 7 maybe I don't
No,
know,
right.
because it was already over, and they think they were back. They were back at the hotel,
Yeah, no, we
and
were back at the
then
hotel because I was there.
yeah,
And I
because you
guess I
guys,
remember when you
yeah,
came
yeah,
back.
because we came back, and you and Rachel and Sean were all hanging
Yeah,
out, and then we came over. Yeah, so yeah, no,
yeah.
fully.
And for everyone that doesn't know who we're talking about, Rachel and Sean is SRS Exotics. They're going to be on here at some point too, as
Oh,
well.
what's
So
up,
like
Danny? What's up, Taylor?
we have our wonderful little
Who else
reptile
is on
family.
here that I know?
Oh,
Hey Joe, hey JD, if you're
uh-oh.
watching. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
He's everywhere.
He's probably
Wyoming. I
yeah.
wish I've never been to Wyoming. That's beautiful. It's not much out
Yeah.
there, but I'm sure it's beautiful. Like I
Is
want to
there
go
like
there.
is there a Wyoming show, Nick? Because I mean, I would be down to go do some Wyoming shows. So
Right?
like, I mean, I know there's a Montana show.
Oh,
I think
that's cool.
I think that Morph Mythology is like the only ball python vendor that goes there.
Yeah.
But
He
the
got to like
rest is just
he got to like a landmine on that place out there that I guess, right?
yeah,
Oh, sweet.
yeah.
My aunt and uncle are on here too. That's pretty cool.
Hey Dylan, how's it going? See, and me and Dylan are just gonna push again that you need to come back to scaled up shows. I mean,
I do. I do. I need to look at the calendar and get it figured out because when I looked at it last year, I was just looking for a show, and Liam from LDR Reptiles or whatever, I'd reached out to him because we're good friends, and he does the Minnesota show, and I was just looking for another show to fill my weekend, and I was like, hey, I see you post this show a lot. I'd love
yeah,
to check it out. Is it worth me driving? I think it's like 8.5 hours.
yep,
And he's like, oh no, definitely. And like going there, like Dylan and Brittany were awesome people. It was fun. It was a fun new group of people.
yeah,
And then that day, like I got to meet this kid named Ian, and he does reptile education shows.
okay, yep,
And the kid's like 8. Well, he's probably 9 now, but he was like
yeah,
8, and he had one of those little mics that you have on your hip and the headset and stuff. So when he's talking, like it was absolutely fantastic meeting him. It was like perfect place, perfect time.
He's like
It was
straight
really
up
cool.
Steve Irwin Jr. right there.
Yeah,
The
no,
headset,
definitely.
Mike.
Yeah, no,
Do you
what's
show you how to wrestle an alligator too?
that's funny. Yeah, no, and plus I met you guys. You met you
No,
guys.
right,
Oh,
right. No,
yeah.
and then it was like right after that. Then obviously there was the Crystal Lake show,
Yeah.
and then like
I was like, wait a second, this guy, because like I went by, I don't know if we talked to him, but I was like, but the Crystal Lake show, I went, I'm like, you were in that Fond du Lac place, right, last week?
yeah,
Because you look really familiar. He's like, yeah. So
yeah. No, exactly. And I think I think the other thing here kind of as well, is obviously so we talked obviously a little bit about the education side, we talked a little bit about the gecko side and stuff. You've got some other critters there.
oh yeah, so right.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta get the pointing right. Because
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
mean
I'd be a terrible newscaster. So this here, that's Captain Marvel. And then okay, I'll try to move this where it works out properly. That there is Onibla. They are both albino blue tegus. Hopefully within the next coming weeks, probably when it'll take place. It will be our first season of breeding tegus. I have a het albino blue male, and then I have a visual. I'm going to run the het first just to see, just because they have better eyes and stuff like that. And I want it because I've mixed reviews about breeding visual to visual. Really misses with their eyes. And so I want to create a quality animal over, yes, if I bred visual to visual, all my babies would then turn out being visuals. But I'm not in it to make I want a quality animal as well. Right. And I'm still like putting pieces together of organizing, okay, when they're born, this and this and this and this rack here or whatever, these cages here are going to need to be for babies, like, so we can't pick up anything extra at shows or how that goes, because it's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, because I mean, isn't a tag? I mean, I don't know about the blues, but I know like at least the big reds and the black and whites. Because I remember right before I went into ball pythons, actually, ironically enough, so I was doing Euromastics. And
okay, those are cool. I've never worked with those.
Yeah, I had Nicaraguan Euros, and when that those passed away, I was like, no, I don't want to do snakes. I was actually going to do tegus, and so I had heard from someone, I don't know how true that is. I mean, that sometimes like their clutch sizes on the tegus is just like absolutely nuts. Like sometimes you're talking like 20 eggs plus.
Yes, like I've heard to expect anywhere from, like, obviously numbers below 10 happen sometimes, but from like 12 to like 25.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna breed both of them. So there could be anywhere from 20 eggs to 50 or 60. Like, so it'll be very interesting, like how that happens.
So what I find funny too as well is, so like, obviously, like, the reason why do the people who buy leechies as pets, so like when we look at the gecko side, people who buy leechies as pets, one of the top reasons they buy it, they go, well, it looks like a miniature T-Rex. But what's one of the top reasons that a lot of people go and started buying tegus? And like, well, when you look at the face, it looks like a miniature T-Rex, looks like a miniature dinosaur. So now you have like the small and medium T-Rex. So like, we need to up you one more. Like, you got to get something like, what's
bigger?
Yeah, what's bigger than that?
Small and medium. I don't. Ooh. I mean, I really want an Aldabra. That's bigger, but that's not T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we can get if we can get those Bengal monitors imported somehow again, maybe one of those.
I could do like Croc monitor. Like, those have like a very like.
Dude, I remember back when NARVC was canceled the one year, and I forget who I was talking with about that. And I was like, yeah, I want a Croc monitor. And the guy's like, do you want to see what happens when you get slashed by a Croc monitor? And the dude took his shirt off and he had scars all the way across.
Yeah, no, see, I've seen enough of those. Like they're a truly fascinating animal. I would love to go somewhere to just like interact or be up close with one. But after seeing like Tom Crutchfield, like his
get destroyed.
Yes. Croc monitor definitely moved down my list.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of always, so like, people who don't know, obviously I mess with the monitors and stuff. I had a breeder set of mangroves that passed away, and now I'm messing with Nile monitors. Yes, I know what I'm getting into. It's a Nile. But I kind of always reference it that it's like, if you're not going to get a Croc mon, like, the nastiest thing you can get is literally pretty much like a Nile as far as like temperamentalist, like, to work with. And then it's like Croc monitor is like a whole new level. Croc monitor and Komodo is just, it's a complete, stepping stone. There's a reasons why you need a license for the Komodos.
No, definitely. Like, I don't know how long have you had your Nile?
Yeah, so the Nile I picked up here, what was that? It was like last fall, right around like November, right around like just after St. Louis and stuff. I wasn't really looking because, like, when my mangroves died, I was like, screw it. Like, these things were perfect. And like, my buddy had grabbed in they're ornate Niles. So technically ornatus, Varanus, but whatever.
Ooh, look at you, Mr. Bringing the spider side out with all those scientific names.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, so my thing was, he's like, oh, come on. I was like, dude, no, I ain't messing with freaking Niles, man. Like, I'm going to hold out. I'm going to buy an Asian water monitor. I'm going to buy a lace monitor is what I said. Because
lace. Yes.
Because I can't get a Parente monitor. I mean, there's barely any in the States, and you've got to have $30,000 available for a baby. Yeah. So
you can go work at Iguana Land.
Yeah, you need to go work at Iguana Land, and like, you need like a freaking horse pasture at 24 mile an hour top speed on those things. I mean, they're nuts.
Yeah,
but
no,
I am hoping at some point we do have room, and that's part of the reason I want a barn, so I can have an indoor riding ring that I could turn into a Parente monitor enclosure.
Oh, that would be so cool! Like, oh my god, I could imagine it now.
Those are my all time. But the Niles, like, he was trying to convince me. He's like, "Come on, man! Like, just like at least like just think about it." And I started messing with them, and the one I pulled out, like, I need to confirm it, as it gets a little bit older. Like, I'm pretty sure it's suspected female at this point, from everything from looping it and whatnot. So, I'm almost dead set it's female. But yeah, I mean, it was honestly, it was calmer than my mangroves when I first snagged my mangroves, and the amount of work that I, put into those. So I was like, all right, if this thing's calmer than freaking mangroves and just already sit in my hand, like, I'll take this gamble. Like, we'll play this game.
No, that's cool.
I still got on my fingers right now. I think, that's what we should do. It's your first year breeding tegus. Guys, at every show, ask Chris to hold up 10 fingers and see if he still has them.
No, so far, luckily, I've never we have six tegus. Yeah. Started off with one, and then got two, and then had some friends kind of switch some directions in some breeding that they were going to do and focus on some other stuff. So kind of continuing their project out that they've been working on with those. And then what was it? It would be Arlington 2021. Yeah, Arlington 2021. Yep. I had never really interacted with monitors too much.
Yep.
Person I used to work for, Jason, at their shop, they had an Asian water monitor, and I'd feed it and water it when I was there loading up and stuff like that before we leave to go to shows. But it wasn't sometimes the friendliest thing. So it was open and shut real quick. But no, so since we do education, I was looking for pieces and animals to have that wow factor to bring people's attention in and captivate them and stuff. Cause like people don't like snakes. And that's fine. That's cool. Like dispositions, but it's amazing, like seeing kids and how unclouded their minds are and they open up to it. And so I have a blue-eyed Lucy. I bring out a blue-eyed Lucy, and that blows people's mind. And so it's like, sometimes they can say, okay, I don't like snakes, but that's really cool.
Right.
And I joke around and tell people there's so many different paint jobs in the hobby that there's, or my bad. I use my kid terminology. There's morphs, genetics. I dumb it down and I call them paint jobs. That if you're looking for something, like something's going to find you and you're going to find it and you're going to like it because there's so many different options. But anyway, so I really wanted to get a black dragon, and I'd been bugging my wife about it and seeing them on different lists and different at shows and stuff since I started going to NERBC and stuff. And I'm like, dude, we really have to get one of these. This will be really good for our educational programs. Something it'll just be really cool. In the back of my head, I'm like, this could go really bad if this monitor is crazy though. I got to make sure I work with it. So luckily I was driving to Arlington. I joked around with her because I was going there to look for Leachies. Imagine that. But I was like, well, what if there's a black dragon there instead? Could I get that? Like, and we're like, ha ha ha. She's like, yeah, sure, get that. And lo and behold, at the show, there's a black dragon. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a black dragon there. Holy cow. So I kind of fell into my lap. It was like a good thing, but a bad thing, because the person I was going to go buy Leachies from, they sold out all their Leachies on Friday night.
Yeah.
And because I'd messaged him and said, hey, I'll be there. And last time they didn't, in the spring, they didn't set up on Friday. They set up on Saturday. So I didn't look for them on Friday when I was hanging out. So I left, and somebody came through and bought the whole table. I was like, well, damn, that sucks. And he saw me, and the look on his face was like kind of disappointed. And he's like, I am so sorry. I'm like, hey, it happens, man. It's all good. Like, someone took them all. I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
So then I had this money like hanging in my pocket. Like, man, I drove 8 hours. Like, what can I spend it on? Ooh, there's a black dragon. Huh, that's cool. Hey, hun, look at this thing. Black dragon. Like, it's actually here. So I went and got my friend Brian that I know from Manhattan Reptile Planet. He came over because he takes care of a lot of monitors and stuff. And I was very inexperienced. I was like, hey, I need your opinion before I throw money at this thing. Does this look good to you? Is this something you would buy and stuff? And he's like, there's a bunch of people up and walking around, and it's walking around the enclosure. It's not trying to hide, things like that. So I knew the guy's table it was on. So I went over and talked to him and opened up the cage and stuck my hand in there and let him check me out. And he didn't try to bite me or anything like that. He walked out for a little bit, and I kind of grabbed him just a little bit since it's a show. I didn't want him to dart over, because Potter's policy is if anything gets away and they find it, it goes in the auction. So.
Except for that time that there were mice loose at St. Louis.
Oh my God. Oh, I remember that. That was Oh, that was oof. And so so talking back and forth to my wife, my business partner. That's what I saw somebody, my friend Taylor, he made a TikTok about a TikTok about, I got to check with my wife. You got to say business partner. It doesn't sound like you're going to get shut down possibly, or it sounds good online when someone says, I'm going to check my wife. And I'm like, okay, you're not getting this if you're checking with your wife. I don't know why that's a joke we all have. Cause hey, I check my, cause I respect her opinion. Right. We're both in this together. I have no problem if someone wants to tell me they're going to check with their wife to get something.
Yeah. So, no, exactly.
But so end up working out. So went back where I was staying at, and I was like, well, I don't have anything else to spend at the show, so I'm just going to drive back to Kansas City in the morning. So I got
Yeah.
up and drove back to our local show that the wife and the kid were set up at that day, and brought back a black dragon.
Yeah.
And probably the first 90 days, he was about 6 months old. The first 90 days I had him, I interacted with him probably 75 of those.
Yeah.
And it truly has paid off. I've been a little slacking at it, letting him out. And he's like our front living room entertainment piece, where we'll just slide the door open. Hilarious. All right, checking with the wife. Goodbye.
Karen.
But yeah, no. So he's our front living room piece, and that's where he's been the whole time, is on the side or in the middle, just so he sees all the bodies walking by, because I wanted to have a relationship with him. I'm definitely his person. He still has that monitor take where he's skittish with quick movements and stuff like that. But he's awesome. He's my favorite reptile. Don't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, no, I think what we really need to know. I mean, so obviously you bought the black dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were the couple other instances that you were referencing to. I remember back, early on and stuff like that. How many get out of jail free cards have you spent here? Aaron, is Chris all out of get out of jail free cards, or you got a lot of one ups on him right now? It sounds like he might have spent a lot of
there's definitely like we don't have any dogs, any cats. We don't have any furry creatures.
Yeah.
The closest thing to furry creatures we have are 2 hedgehogs.
I got you.
But there's definitely probably a hairless cat in the future sometime, I think.
For her or for you?
For her. Like, she wants a cat. And so I don't despise cats. I'm just not a cat person. Whatever. Like, I'd much rather have a dog. They're more of like on the terms, hey, let's play. You want to play? I want to play. Let's play. Like, cat's like, whatever. Get away from me, dude.
So Karen, what Chris is saying is, at the next NARBC show, find a hairless cat breeder, tell them to go bring the cat to the show, and then just say, I had this money in my pocket and there was a hairless cat there, and and he'll say yes.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So I think that's the other aspect to it that people don't realize. I mean, like, I joke about it, me and Sean joke about it, me and you joke about it. Obviously, I'm very open about joking a lot about a lot of these like typical like BS responses that we get all the time. But obviously, realistically, like myself, obviously you're married, you're past my point, even though you're married, you've got 2 kids, you got the whole family structure and stuff. Explain to people, obviously there's a balance.
Stop, Tim. We don't need 2 to 3 cats. Get out of here.
There's this balance, and I'm just, I'm kind of curious. I mean, when you were, getting in, when you were building and stuff, was this you driving and your wife saying like, hey, I support you? Was this kind of straight off the bat, like you guys developed this together? I mean, I think that's a really unique aspect that people don't realize, but that, the relationship of obviously, your family that you're with, your significant other, if you've got kids, all the amount of time, obviously, that we invest as breeders and vendors, into the hobby, that changes our family dynamic and the amount that we have to be able to adjust to be able to juggle that. So, I think it'd be really unique, obviously, just kind of hearing, obviously your perspective, because I know both your kids are, still pretty young. They still got a lot of schooling and stuff. So, I think, but same time.
Yeah, looking back at it, I think it was very, it was kind of my idea, because like our situation is our oldest is 12, and at the time when we got into reptiles, it was just us 3. Our daughter wasn't here yet, and then start moving forward. Our daughter's here, things are going and stuff like that, and we actually homeschool our son.
Okay, yeah,
and so. Being at home and work things kind of changed. So then I joke around, people ask, is reptiles my full-time job? And I'm like, it is, but like my son having his education and homeschooling him, that's like my full-time job, working there. But when I had the thought process and talking to her after like weekends of doing doing reptile shows, like working the cold-blooded,
Yep.
working the Go Lizards table and stuff, and looking at it. She fully supported and like I went and bought, when I first got into snakes, bought 2 females and a male off a morph market, a black pastel, a pinstripe, and a Pastavi or something, whatever. I'm like, let me see if I can breed snakes or whatever. Well, it was a myth. I bred some snakes, but I'm probably the worst ball python breeder there is on this side of America. I'll just leave it at that. Like, it was awesome. It's fun. I love my snakes, but for Joe Schmo that can breed ball pythons, I couldn't touch it, but I can breed leechies. That works. Like, fine. Like, it's a gift and a curse, I guess. But no, it was then just an idea of us talking it out and figuring out like what's the right plan and how do we make sure this takes place, and we like, let's make this a form of income and something that we can do and sustain. And that was like 2019, because we got a little notebook and we're trying to think of names and stuff. And the first name I came up was, what was it? NBA Reptiles. That was the first name I wanted to go. Sports nut. And then I was like, I probably shouldn't do that. I don't want the NBA because it was going to stand for nothing but awesome reptiles. It was what it was going to be. And I was like, well, I don't want to get too popular and like Adam Silver and the NBA come after me for some like copyright infringement or whatever. So not that name anymore. I even got a Gmail under that. Like when I first started, like, oh, I better go lock this Gmail in. But no, it was very fluid, and figuring out processes and things. And then like our website, when we got to that point for it, of making everything official with the LLC, my brother-in-law he's very instrumental in that. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. So he helped a lot in putting our GoDaddy website together and that platform, getting pictures up there. I ordered a photo box, and now I take 50 million pictures to get one good picture, I guess.
Yeah.
And so piecing that together was fun, and her support and working together and bouncing things off that she knows from just like her marketing and working on that side of the field to help make things look better, or like customer side and stuff.
Right.
But she's definitely the behind the scenes aspect of it, whereas I'm like the face of it.
She's the boss.
Right. No,
she's
pretty much.
Yeah.
She's the one that tells me when I can spend and can't spend.
Yeah. No,
and then I think. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think like most people that know you too, like at the shows, like I don't know, like I feel like everyone's just always like, man, I love Chris and I love Chris's family, and it is like one of those really cool things, because I mean, like obviously, like when I got there, setting up at NARBC, I was talking with you as well as parts of the show when people were starting to take things down. I mean, you see so many people and stuff like that, like man, like your kids are engaged. Like as far as taking the geckos out, like I see your son Des, and like he's like moving the geckos, and it goes, no, that goes into this container and this container, and you guys are like, no, this one's Bob Jetty, and no, this one's Bob Jetty. We're going back and forth, and I'm just like,
that's funny. Yeah,
and I'm like, man, when I was 12, I was just like, I'm just trying to figure out what long division is, type of a thing, and
right,
this guy's arguing over geckos.
It's definitely a blessing. Like, both of my kids truly love and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the other part that got us switched into geckos. Whereas when I had a bunch of snakes, my son would come and help me with it here and there, and then she would help me like wash out tubs or do things like that, but nothing directly with feeding snakes or cleaning out things like that or taking care of rats. And then me and my son used to take care of rats together. Then he developed some like pet allergy dandruff thing, and it like chokes him out. So he like rats he can't do that stuff anymore.
No, right.
So it's fun. It's fascinating. Like, we didn't do a lot of trips or anything like that when I was younger. Or like I have memories and things like that from my childhood, but like everybody tries to do things better for their kids and leave them in a better situation than what they were. So I'm excited that looking in fast forward 10, 15, 20 years from now, hopefully all things continue to move forward, and I'm in no rush to get anywhere. It's a fun journey.
Yeah.
That when they get older and they can look back on the different adventures that reptiles have taken us in that part will be really cool to that piece. And usually on most weekends, we usually all kind of roll together. There's been just a handful of times where it's been just me, or
Right.
like one time it was just me and I went with Nick. We went to the second ever St. Louis show we set up together,
Yeah.
and Karen and Dez, they went to Springfield on
Okay.
Saturday and went to Kansas City on Sunday for a back-to-back reptile show.
Yeah.
And then a couple times it's just been me and Karen, but
Yep.
it's fun. It's definitely a family atmosphere, and the geckos we'll feed together, we'll do all these things together. So it's just like quality time that we get to spend with each other in that regard and aspect, and having those bonds with those animals, and where we can joke around. Like we have one named Bob Jetty and things like that, where it's just loose humor for us. So
No, right. And I think it's, it's very, it's interesting. Obviously, like, you hear about all these things about people, obviously, like, grow up on farms and stuff. And like, I had that obviously luxury because my grandfather had a farm when I was younger. So, you get that aspect of being able to mess around with all those different types of animals and stuff. But, for most people, you can't always just, I'd say it, but, have a 30,000 square foot pole barn or something like that, 20 plus acres, and you have all those things. But I think reptiles allows you to have that kind of that same type of, kind of family atmosphere as far as how you're interacting, working with the different animals, but without having to have 10,000 square foot of barn and 5+ acres type of a thing. So
yeah, sometimes you don't have to like brave the elements. Like
no, right, right. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, you could have a whole colony of micro geckos and take up less than a shelf.
Right. No, fully. No, that's we're farmers. Is that what we
Yeah.
are?
We're
Oh,
farmers now. We're kind of agricultural because what is it? Illinois considers it livestock. I mean,
yeah, it's
technically,
true.
but
Yeah. I mean, interesting.
so fast forward, we got more shows coming up. Obviously, NARBC Spring Show. That was kind of one of, I guess,
Yeah.
what I would call kind of one of the kickoffs. Besides, obviously, I know you were at Arlington as well in February.
Yeah.
When's kind of, when's the next show? People are here and they're like, yo, I want to meet Chris. I need to meet his family. Like, I need to go, like, make fun of him and, like, tell Karen
Definitely.
she needs to go buy a hairless cat. Like, where
Well,
do I go?
I already saw in the comments somebody said they had. Oh, Joe said he has the hookup on those type of cats, so I'm already in trouble.
Like, where do we go find the EpicStyle, team? Where's the
Right. All
next
right.
stop?
So this weekend it'll be just I am going. The rest of the team is staying home because I'm riding with going down to do the Reptilian Nation show in Fort Worth. I always want to say Dallas because they're next to it, but it's in Fort Worth this weekend. Out there with Ball Python Shed, Bob's Balls. Gonna go down there and set up. So that should be a fun weekend there. The next opportunity to see all of us together will be April 16th. It's an Omaha show. It's a very good show. It's ran by Glenn. It's a crazy setup. So the doors for setup open at 6 a.m.
Okay.
VIP can enter at 7. So you have an hour to get all this stuff set up. There's no like night before setup or anything like that. It is from 6 to 7 is your only alone time. And then from 7 to 10 is VIP. And then I think the show goes till 4 still or whatever. But we've done it, I think, twice now.
Okay.
Twice? Yeah. Both of them in April, because then I went to Arlington because their fall date conflicts with Arlington. But I was talking to Glenn because he said Arlington that they're moving the date so it doesn't conflict with it anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. And then April's kind of full of a bunch of parties. So if you're in the Kansas City area, want to book a party, or you want to fly to Kansas City and rent a room somewhere, I'll come do a party there. Like if you want to meet me that way. And then May is Kansas City, I think, is like the 7th, if that's the right Sunday. And then going back to Houston for Reptilian Nation there, like the 20th, 21st.
So what you're saying is, if we want to book a party, again, if anyone from the Kansas City Chiefs has joined the call, if you want a Super Bowl party with reptiles, there we go.
Definitely. What's funny is I actually like, so you were messaging me all week about, I've hit up this person, or I'm like, I'm pestering so and so to try to get him to come on and whatnot.
I'm pretty
Like
sure Andy
I
Reid's probably blocked me by now.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my Instagram real quick. Let me get on there. I'm gonna go and I'll message the Chiefs. I'm like, hey, does anybody happen to own any reptiles that plays for the team or works like on the staff? Like, I'm just curious. It hasn't been read. Like, I'm sure they get blasted with a whole bunch of stuff that they don't look at, but eventually,
I was gonna message Chiefsaholic, but I was afraid that we might get in trouble for
gosh,
that, for that one.
Yeah, so that was people were legit. So if Chiefsaholic is like a Chiefs super fan who wears like a wolf costume, but he was going to Houston and they didn't see him at the Houston game, so people got really worried that he wasn't at the game, and like Twitter was like freaking out. Well, they found out that he actually stopped on his way to Houston and robbed a bank in Bixby, Oklahoma, or something like that, which is like outside of Tulsa. And I guess he's been doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I guess his out of town Chiefs travel things were done for that. Like, that's so weird. That's great. Like, could you imagine? Hey, let's go to Reptile Show and let's stop at this bank. Like, like
that explains why there's so much cash at the Reptile Show.
Desert Ghost, baby. Let's see. What's the next show for you?
Yeah, so Fond du Lac this weekend. We'll be up at Fond du Lac, so that'll be cool. It's our first local show where we'll have stuff, obviously be able to scan and promote the podcast, as well as obviously my breeding projects from both the tarantula and then the ball python side. So that'll be for us, and then I think it's a quick turnaround then, and then me and Sean are heading down to Lafayette, Indiana, which man, that's a show. I know it's a little bit of a drive, man, for you from Kansas City, but
yeah,
that first show, I mean, we had 4,000 people through the door at a one-day show, and we were,
what weekend is that?
Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it like April 12th or something? It's like the weekend after. It's the weekend after Easter.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's when I'm in Omaha. The weekend after. Yeah, unfortunately. And then Sean had messaged me because he was looking at some Kentucky.
Yeah, me and him are going to Kentucky. We got an escape room. We're going to a pirate ship escape room. So
I'm jealous. That's cool. That's fun. Yeah, he had called. I think it was last. Yeah, because I think it was last week. He had called to check to see if we could go or not. Because I remember the person came around because I think they were like right down the end from us, and they passed us a flyer at the show for it, and I was like, oh, unfortunately, I have some parties. That's kind of the hard part. So like doing birthday parties and events and stuff, like right now during the school year, is like weekends. So I have to shows I know I'm going to do. I go onto the website and I block those weekends and block things off, or like if it's a 3-hour show, I'll leave it open on Saturday till like 2 or something, unless it's hey, I meet like there's a bunch of people I know they're gonna go, then I want to go hang out with my reptile friends and that I might not get to see or whatever. And so if I block off all my weekends, then I can't have events or parties and things like that for those times. So having a balance there is sometimes kind of difficult in that regard, or making sure, like, I haven't came across it yet where I've had to like call somebody back or email them and be like, hey, I didn't get a chance to block this weekend off, but I'm actually out of town. Like basically like the St. Louis weekend, because I didn't know I was going to go. So I had it open, and then it was like, crap, what do I do? Like, well, because I'm just driving 600 miles in a weekend.
No, right. Yeah. And I mean, so I think that's the other thing too. I know I was joking with Troy about that, because obviously, you do a lot of shows. I do a decent amount of shows. Troy does a lot of shows. I always kind of try to pull it up, best story. So one, do you have a favorite? If you have a favorite show, obviously, but then two, on top of it, what's your best show story? Whether it's crazy customer story, just funny instance that happened before, after, late night at the show. Also too, if anyone else wants to spill the beans on something that might have happened that's really funny to Chris at a show, feel free to drop that in the chat. I'll put it up on the screen.
I meant to go back because I remember you asking this at Troy's,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got to get prepared for this. Like, and then I never went back and watched a little bit of it because I just to kind of catch vibes and how it was going to go tonight.
No, right.
But completely forgot about this question. So
No,
part one was something that took place. My favorite show. Well, I can't. That's hard. I like them. It's fun. Like it's fun. They're all fun because it's awesome when you're at a show with other vendors that because you get to catch up. Sometimes maybe it's maybe been a little bit since you've seen somebody or whatever, and maybe maybe they don't go, maybe it's a small local person that doesn't travel anywhere,
right.
and so they just do that show. So going there and seeing them is cool, or there's certain people at the show that make it great. So I truly enjoy going and exploring. Like, let me make a friend here and somebody I can talk to and chat to, because I am definitely chatty Cathy. That has no problems with that. Oh, that is definitely
Oh,
yeah.
do you want to explain?
I like Crown Apple.
Okay.
I got to Crystal Lake to set up, because this was at the time when I drove Jason's stuff to set up for the show. And if Jason was on here or is on here, I don't screw around when I want to go somewhere. My wife knows it too. I want to get up and get gone and get there and already be there. So it's like, I want to leave at like 2:00 in the morning. I want to leave at 3. I want to leave at this time so I can get there and get my stuff done. Especially like I had to unload the truck. So the earlier I get there, I can unload the truck and get it all taken out and have time to so I stop at like the liquor store there, pick up like a full handle and give me two things of Sprite, and I'm just unloading things. Once I get all unloaded, then I open up thing, because now it's time to like actually get the stuff out of the box. And I was probably a little toasted by the time Sean and Rachel and all of them got there. We went to Texas Roadhouse, and yeah, it was it was definitely one of those you got to be there moments for it. It was I thought the hotel staff stole my my Sprite. Yeah, no. I thought they stole my handle. Well, I guess I left the handle somewhere else. I found it later when we were packing up, but I literally thought someone came in and stole like the rest of my alcohol.
Wait, was this the Crystal Lake that I did?
Because
this sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard parts of this.
I don't know. No.
That must have came up.
It must have came up because at the time when
it
must have came up then, because when we met at Crystal Lake, I was already EpicStyle.
Right. Yeah. No.
Jason at the time. So yeah, this was when I still worked for Go Lizards.
I got you.
At that time.
Yeah.
But I enjoy them all. It's fun and it's cool. Like, I know my wife gets annoyed when I go off and I talk to people and I try to make my way back, especially in the RBC. It's so hard. You see so many people up and down the aisles, and I want to talk to them, and it's just a lot of networking. Like, you're trying to just.
I'm waiting for my wife to throw a comment in the chat and go, Nick does that too.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yes, thank you for saying that. So my wife knows I'm not the only one.
No, because when I went to, it's ironic that you mentioned that, because when I went to go talk to you, one time, so like I told her I was going out to the truck, and I was like, well, let me go stop by and talk to Chris because I need to talk to him about something. And then it's like, it's been like 45 minutes or an hour, and like my wife's texting me and whatnot. And I think then she called and she's like,
yeah, she called.
Yeah, are you coming back? And I'm like, I'm talking about Leachies with Chris.
Your mistake was answering it. So I usually
there you go. There's my wife.
I see it when I'm talking to someone. I'm like, oh crap, she's calling. All right, finish this part, but I gotta go because my wife is calling. So I don't see the text message, and I got the silly watch, and sometimes I miss it because it just goes off, and I wear it so much that it's just a part of me, and so my body doesn't recognize it as much when the notifications go off.
But, later, like SpongeBob.
But no, it's I guess my favorite moment. Was that was the question, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to go back to that Fond du Lac show we did, like meeting that little kid, that little boy named Ian.
Yeah.
Ian and his reptile shows, they came by, they were talking at the table. He has I think he had a leopard tortoise and something else, And then he had a few other little critters and stuff that he took to his presentations that he did. And he really liked this Redfoot.
Yeah.
And so we talked to him 10, 15 minutes, whatever, and they continued around the show, and he left because I was like, well, they talked for a little bit and told me the story, and I was like, well, it's a reptile show, so everything's negotiable,
Right.
whatever. And so I was like, well, just if you're interested, let me know. Blah, blah. Mom's like, yeah, I just, I came for feeders and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
no pressure. I'm not a used car salesman. I'm not that hey, I completely understand it. I'm going to be in Crystal Lake next week if you change, because they lived a little bit south of there. And so I think it was 50-50. I'm like, well, if you change your mind, I'll be in Crystal Lake next week or whatever. You could come there and you could pick up a tortoise there. So 15, 20 minutes go by, and I'm in my mind, I'm just kind of going back and forth about that interaction. I'm like, dude, that kid's balling out, doing his own little thing, sharing reptiles. His mom showed me his Facebook page and stuff. And I tap my wife and I go, are you going to get mad at me if I give this kid a tortoise? I'm just going to give it to him. I don't care. We've made our money for today. I'm good. The table's covered. Expenses are covered. Something really wants me to give this kid a tortoise. I don't know what it is, but I like what he's doing. And it's the community aspect, and hey, a lot of people have blessed me with opportunities in the time that I've been in this community. I've been keeping reptiles for almost 8 years, but versed in the community, I would say probably 4.5, maybe 5, kind of. And I've been grateful to all those people that have touched our lives in different ways and stuff like that. So I looked around. I'm like, hey, his mom's wearing a pink shirt. Where's she at? Do you see him? Is he still here? Hopefully he's still here. And I found him. And so I picked up the tortoise and took it over to him. I was like, all right, I got something for you. It has to be okay with your mom, but I want to give you this tortoise just because you are doing amazing things, and I want to see you succeed at that type of stuff. And it was a very cool moment. I shared it on my on Facebook and stuff, and some of the people that followed us at the time, I went and followed him and checked his page out, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
And then what? Did you have one more? Was there another question in there?
No, I can't remember, but people are busting you about this cat thing here. So I think that's how she's gonna get her cat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at this. Probably it'll happen.
Yeah, it also sounds like between me, you, and Rachel, we probably all need ankle bracelets for our partners to be tracking us at shows.
Yeah, Sean called me. He's like, "Is my wife still over there?" I was like, "She just left." Yeah, no, it's just so hard, and it's cool. It was cool the last couple times because at first, when you're just trying to get your brand and your name and stuff out there, I would go talk to these people, and Karen said one time, she's like, "Oh, that's cool. So-and-so stopped by the table to see us and stuff." And so she's starting to see the return on the networking and the investment of other people stopping by and seeing you, or making it a point to find where you're at and stuff. So that's a long ways to go and things like that. Right. But it's fun. It's part of the journey. I've truly been blessed with the opportunities and for starting with my family, and now this reptile family, and meeting the right people and being in those places oh my gosh, a shock.
my wife's already in on it.
Okay, well, me, Nick, and Rachel are definitely
we're gonna get some we're gonna get some US Arc ones.
Oh, there we go. That's funny.
Where's the championship belt come from, man?
So that was Steve. So that picture you used, Steve Nelson from I think it's Aria is the correct pronunciation of it.
Yeah.
He's local to Kansas City.
Right.
Big into just advocating for people that keep reptiles and things like that.
He's the chiefsaholic of reptiles minus the bank robbing. He's like the avid reptile fan of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how
You
else to
said it.
describe him.
Yeah, that's a very wow. That's hilarious. But no, we didn't go to the auction that night in Arlington because we hang out with family because we have family that lives in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And so I guess they have a belt this year that they're doing that whoever bids the most on it at the auction then like gets to have it on Sunday. And so he stopped by the booth and he's like, here, hold on to this. So I'm like, well, we're going to take some pictures in here. Like, let's get this going. Like Des has one where he's holding it up like this above his head and stuff or whatever. And then just the fact that we were talking Mahomes and I'd send over some pictures and things. And you're like, oh, I'm definitely using that one.
No, I had to. As soon as I already knew, like I said, as soon as I was going to have you on the show, like as soon as I had already seen that pictures of that, I'm like, no, we're using this stuff. Like straight up, that had to be there. But I mean, anyone in the chat here either have something still to bust Chris on, anything you want to question, ask about geckos, ask about reptile education, ask about, I don't know, the living the dream, whatever you want to call it, you know, drop it in the chat here, you know, because I mean it's getting late here for Chris and Chris is gonna have to get up for school tomorrow. And then, you know, Des is gonna have to teach him about these nuts.
Oh Lord!
I had to throw that joke in there.
Sean is all over. Like I don't care. Karen's kind of like But Sean, like you have a group message where we're talking back and forth, and something popped up about like a chocolate bar or something else or whatever, and like he's 12, so he's at that age where like that sense of humor stuff is like hilarious to him. So and then like his name's Desmond, Dezmon, but then he goes by Des, so it's like this setting right there. So
Des is all smiles.
But no, it's been it's been fun, like the journey that we've had in this short amount of time. Like this June will be our second full year as an LLC and vending shows as EpicStyle. I don't know, like how long have you been doing shows and stuff like that?
So for me, I mean, it's what are we coming on? Dakota, try to correct me if I'm wrong. Is this 3 years now we've been doing shows? 2.5 years? I'm trying to think because we did that first whenever. Let's see. 3 years. I think we're going on 3 years, you know, doing shows now. Yeah.
Oh, so if Karen gets a cat, that means that I either need an anaconda or an aldabra.
You can come join in on me and Sean. You can ask Sean. I think in the past week or so I brought up patternless anacondas at least like half a dozen times. I believe that like
there was a dude at Tinley had a whole stack of them. There was like I don't know who he was.
No, Juggernaut.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah. I just was talking to you. I was talking to a friend who breeds retics. He had a whole stack of them and something else. He had a hybrid.
Yep.
And
Juggernaut. Yeah.
And so I was like, "What are those?" He's like, "Oh, they're patternless." I'm like, "What? Oh, that's cool, huh?" But it was like 4 or 5. I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that like I've been joking with Sean on that one. Like, yeah, for me, you know, those patternless, I love anacondas, but like the patternless anacondas, because those originate from Reddick. He was the one who created those. Mm-hmm. And then obviously with that whole scenario that happened.
So that is like literally when I first like started like cutting my teeth and digging deeper into the reptile world, when that whole thing, like right before it started. So then that happened. I was like, oh my gosh. Like people are doing that.
Did you start like turning over by time to time, like checking on Karen and be like,
well, that was before we knew what happened. Like I wasn't on the end or whatever. Like, I have a friend that she worked a lot with him, and then I've got to know another friend that he was really good friends with him and stuff. But yeah, it was just like crazy because it popped up and it was like snake breeder in Missouri, and I'm like, wait, snake breeder in Missouri? Like that's like pretty relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Yeah, because I mean, I know like his whole collection. So like the anaconda side, a big chunk of them went to Fisher Reptiles. I know they own all of his pattern list. The only thing I think that they didn't get was like the albino greens or whatever.
Mm.
But almost all of his lines are there. And then there's someone else random in Madison, Wisconsin. I forget what the guy's name is. I met him before. Who got the other like half of it. And then obviously like Juggernaut, and then people have gotten pieces since then, like after
Right.
the productions and whatnot. But
Mhm.
man, like Anacondas, that's a whole other
I never wanted one because I remember watching Brian's channel when he first got his,
yeah.
and I was like, we struggled to get it to eat and stuff. And I have two retics, I have a berm, and I have a Central American boa. But
Okay.
I got those things for educational presentation. So I got them as babies.
Yep.
The one of my retics is 2 years old, and she's nothing crazy. She's probably about this round.
Yeah.
And probably like 6 foot, nothing crazy. I feed her once a week, a decent sized meal.
Yeah. So
I'm
6 foot Pringles can.
Yeah, exactly. So, because it like I've had people, oh hey, I have a berm, or I have this that I'll give you, or it's real cheap, and I can't. As much as I want to take someone's word,
Right.
I'm going out and presenting myself and putting my own self at risk if I can't read its tails and things like that. And I don't want to represent the hobby in a bad light and be like, tonight on
60 minutes,
like educational show goes wrong. Like, no, like it's not so. As much as I would love to pay some money and skip the process and have a big snake right away.
Yeah.
I enjoy reptiles, so I don't feel I'm going to go anywhere anytime soon.
No, right.
So eventually that tiny snake that I've worked with and, can understand it and read it and stuff like that will be a big snake eventually. And so I was like, okay, well, I have 3 snakes that are going to get decently big.
Yep.
And I don't need another one.
Right.
Well, so I was up looking for Robin from Redline, which is another awesome person in the hobby.
Yeah.
And by his booth was Megan Kelly, Meg Conda.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her for a bit while I was waiting for him to come up there. And she's like, me and Des were checking out the anacondas because she had a male and a female. And she's like, you want to hold him? I was like, is that okay? Sure. She's like, he just got out of his water dish, so he might be a little wet. I'm like, I don't care. I'm holding anaconda. Like, and it's the one on my profile picture on Facebook. But it's a male, and I think she said it's like 12 foot long, which is decently long for a male because they usually like 8 to 10 or something on average. Yeah. But just the instant like it started like moving and going through, it was like 60 pounds probably.
Yeah.
But just the instant like endorphins that took over in my mind of like, oh my gosh, I really want this snake. I have to figure out how to like convince my wife now that we need an anaconda.
Yeah.
They're slow growers.
Yeah.
And so talk to her for a bit about them and things like that, and like, prices and stuff. And so then now it's like research and educating and just obviously making sure it's right for all that stuff. But no, eventually, like right now, everything's out of our house.
Yep.
So I think we roughly have probably 120 some reptiles altogether. But I would hopefully within like the next couple years, learning the more of the business side, I want to get a building or facility, whether it's 20 by 20 or just somewhere. Because right now, all of our events that we do we come, like if you were to go on our website, Nick, and book something, it's me come into your house, or if you have like a community center or a room, or during the summer, weather permitting, like we can come out and do parties outside and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that would help just bring more people in, if because it's not always fun to have to pick up your place, or maybe your place isn't big, you're going to have a lot of people come over,
right?
And so so you want a bigger place. So then this gives you the option to have our facility at our facility and stuff for that day. And then it'd be able to, like, I'll probably take some tegus out and alleviate a few reptiles out of my house. But I couldn't have them all. I'd be bored.
Yeah.
I'd just
so what I heard, and I think Rachel will probably second this one, and Sean's gonna probably get mad at me for this, is that you want to create an escape room that's also a party experience. So you're stuck in a room with the reptiles. Now that would be really cool. So you're stuck in it'd be like Indiana Jones style. You're stuck in a room with all the snakes.
Oh man. No, I don't want to do that because that's one. So I had a friend come over one time, and it was really early when we only had a few dragons and some snakes. And my biggest thing is, like, when I go to parties, I'm like, hey, it's like a choose your own adventure book. I don't know if kids know what those are anymore. But you don't have to, if you don't want to touch it, you don't have to touch it. If you want to touch it, you can touch it. If you want to hold it, you can hold, most of the animals except for just a couple of them. And but don't feel obligated or have pressure and all that stuff. If I pass you by, I'll come back and stuff. I want you to be comfortable and enjoy it in your right mind frame. So hopping back to my friend, so I was showing him some snakes. Well, he grabbed said snake and took it out and shoved it like in his girlfriend's face, and was like, "Hey, here you go!" Like, I'm like, she was so mad at me. Well, she was mad at him, and then she thought I was in on it. I said, "No, I'm not in on that." Like, I want it to be very natural and forthcoming and stuff. And my favorite part when I go to shows, like I alluded to earlier, was kids are they're very open to the ideas and things like that. And as they age and they get these pre-seed things, behaviors and all that stuff set in, and you kind of put up walls and like, oh, that's not a good thing, or snakes are bad, or this, but the dads or the moms that are in the back of the room, like, just kind of checking it out and like, okay, well, you go up there, Johnny, and you do your thing and enjoy this. And then I ask as I go around and have like a boa out, hey, any big kids want to hold this or touch it? And some of the parents will check it out. And then this dad one time said, everybody held that thing. I have to hold that now. So he held it, and that guy held every single snake after that. And I was like, this was fascinating. Like, this is really cool. Like, I am so glad I stayed to see this and check it out and all that stuff. Cause it was just, just a mindset. And so,
right. Yeah.
Like spiders, like I'm still working on we have a couple spiders.
Yeah.
I don't hold spiders though. I don't know what that's the next thing because we have a Mexican red rump and we have a curly hair.
Yeah.
And that's probably the next thing I want to work on within the year. So when I go to parties, at least I can have them out, because I'll take the tote I'll take what they're in.
Right.
And I'll open it up so the kids can see it and stuff like that. But no spiders crawl on me.
No, right. Yeah, no, I mean, spiders obviously are a whole different thing. I think I was mentioning the martial arachnids one. Like, I knew someone who got nailed by a curly hair like 2-3 weeks ago, got bit.
Yeah, no, seeing like, yeah,
but
like, I'm all right.
But I think obviously my thing is, man, we've taken up a lot of your time. I'm here tonight, but
you're right. No,
I think the thing I haven't highlighted even enough is folks, obviously, if you're joining, if you like Chris, if you love all this type of content, if you want to see more of this, because like Chris referenced, like all of my shows, like I don't plan anything. I plan who's going to be on here, where it goes, what happens, what the heck ends up getting said.
We're both going to get off here and message each other and be like, oh, we didn't talk about this, or we didn't talk about that. Like,
exactly. Like this is looser scripted than Seinfeld was. But the thing I highlight is, not just obviously what helps this channel, but what also helps all of my guests on here is, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, then going to their pages, going to their Instagram, going to their Facebook, following them, liking them, shooting them a message, even just saying, hey man, it was cool to be able to learn about your business. All of those little tiny things, as much as you don't realize that helps these businesses here, that makes a huge impact just as far as their social media presence, how all those algorithms work. So please go out, and continue to do that. Help Chris's business continue to grow. Help me to be able to keep growing this channel and stuff. If you want to see me, like last week, I had, our good friends at SRS, I had their hat on. If you want to see me wearing your hat or your shirt, send me a shirt, send me a hat. I'll wear it on here for free. I don't care.
You're a billboard, not a...
I am. I'm a billboard. I'm a billboard. No, and the answer is no, Bob Vu. I will not tattoo your logo on me.
I think there's like already like 4 people that have that sucker on, and I think it was a complete joke, like ha 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 ha, and then like it just like some people just took it the completely other way, like, oh, let's do this, like, but it's so funny,
right?
It's so
funny. Like I said, I want to highlight those things because I mean, when you go to a show, you see Chris, stop by and say hi. Introduce yourself. Even if you're not looking to buy today, you're just looking to get information, or you're just like, yo, I saw you on that podcast. Stop by and say hi.
And if I'm not at the table, not at the table, let Karen know that, hey, she's doing a good job. Shame on Chris for not being here. Because
if he's not at the table and you're looking, if he's not at the table and you're looking to buy because that money goes towards Karen's hairless cat. This is a big cause for us. So every dollar counts towards that hairless cat.
That's funny.
Otherwise,
I got 2 things before we get off here, by the way. So I don't know, like I'm just trying to figure out how to do a gecko giveaway. I think I'm gonna do like a lily white. I don't know exactly, like everybody likes to do the follower thing on Instagram or whatever. So I'm trying to figure out what would be a fun way to do a giveaway. So watch, if you hop over, I don't know when, like obviously I'm in the process of thinking of it, but watch for like possibly doing a lily white giveaway. And then the second thing is you need a hashtag for the tread, and it's definitely burn rubber.
Yeah, no, I should do that. It should totally be burn rubber. But hey, lily whites are hot. I've seen so many people buying lily whites. I'm gonna do a shout out here, Tony from Hardwire. I don't know if you're watching this live, if you watch this later. I know your wife has been buying lily whites left and right. So giveaway, Chris is giving away a lily white. There you go. You want to get another gecko? There you go, right there. Right. Forgot to talk about Vermictopus, my wife says. So she's already busted my balls about tarantulas, and it's not even a tarantula episode.
Hilarious.
But so people, if you want to get in on a gecko and you want to get in on it for a great deal, you want to start maybe following, playing along. You don't know when he's going to be doing that giveaway. You don't want to miss out on that. Like I said, lily whites are hot right now. I see them going to pet stores, and I see them gone the same day they go into pet stores even. So here you go. Here's your hookup straight from the breeder, straight from the source. Chris's preacher imitation.
I don't even remember that. Like that was, I don't know. I also ate some fried pickles, I think, that night too. I don't like pickles.
You don't like pickles?
I don't like pickles, and I ate fried pickles. So I'm not
gonna be able to sell you on my spicy company.
I was a little turnt.
So also too as well, if you see Chris at a show, remember to bring a handle of Crown Royal. Get him about halfway in.
Hilarious. No, it's fun. Yeah, you stop by, say hi, whatever. Yeah. Like it's fun.
Are you gonna be at Schaumburg?
Not vending, but I think I'm gonna go up and just like hang out, and because it's so far between fall, the spring in ERBCs have already happened, so I have to wait all the way till the end of September and October. So I think I want to just go up there and hang out and kind of have fun.
You guys should all come. You're in my neck of the woods. ERBC is like 45 minutes from my place.
Yeah.
If it's not like freezing cold, we should get some people. I got the bonfire pit. We'll have a good old time.
Hope it's not freezing cold in the end of July.
My folks still got boxes of Crown from back when my grandparents had a restaurant. So I got boxes of Crown. I mean, we can crack open a whole case of Crown for you.
Setting agenda to go to Nick's place.
Crown apple. So, folks, I mean, if you don't got any more questions for Chris, stuff like that, I want to make sure that he gets some time so he can actually go spend it with his family. I'm sure they're probably going to be busting his balls here for a while.
They're upstairs watching this. So
yeah, they're probably Love
So
him
I
as
don't, and
well.
Nick, I don't know if you follow Simon T Reptiles. It's Tim, my friend Tim. You guys are both Bears fans,
Yeah.
so you have a lot of misery in common
Yeah.
that you could enjoy together and making fun of things and all that.
We traded the first pick. We're one step closer to not
Hey,
being in a rebuild.
hey, I wish the Chiefs would have done that the year they had the first pick, because there's nothing like you're
You
gonna
have, you
just
have Mahomes.
suck.
You're fine.
Suck next year. Get Caleb Williams or get Drake May or something like. It'll work out.
Oh, but I mean, everyone, I mean, obviously from my side, like I said, I appreciate everyone continue to tune in. Definitely hit that like button, share everything, make sure that you're hitting those watches, make sure you're getting other people to join, follow, subscribe to the channel. If you're not following Chris, join, subscribe his pages, hit him up for birthday parties, stop by, say hi to him and his family at the shows and stuff. Again, I mean, this is very much, about showing what the reptile and exotic pet community is, more so than just obviously, trying to show you, this, that, the other around husbandry or whatnot. So I hope you guys got a little bit more insights into, what all goes on kind of behind the scenes across a lot of these different shows, vendors, breeders. Next week we're going genus pythons with TJW Exotics, so that should be another fun one. I feel like I'm hitting everyone up in Missouri, but for everyone here, I'm Nick Karascavage with the Tread, and Chris, I mean, it's been, as always, just an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again. I know it's going to be a few months possibly, but I'll check schedules. We'll talk. And the easiest way to find us is if you go on Instagram, EpicStyle LLC, and then we have our link tree on there that has all of our information, websites, Facebooks, all that stuff. You can go give us a follow, check us out those places. Thanks again, Nick.
There you go, guys. And I mean, I'm notating it here. We're doing testing on our side as far as heat and temps and stuff like that. My wife wants a Leachy. If you haven't looked at Leachianus Geckos, check them out. Talk to Chris. They're really freaking cool. I'm not a gecko person, but they are probably one of the coolest freaking geckos you can get. So again, any way that you can continue to just kind of keep supporting the brands here that support this show, please go ahead and do it. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you. This was The Tread. Tuning out.